Before words are spoken, energy has already been exchanged. The tone of your heart is louder than the sound of your voice. Let us walk slowly into this teaching. When the heart is unsettled, the tongue speaks in fragments. Many conversations between men and women lose their true meaning because they begin in haste without grounding. Imagine walking into a room full of dust and trying to see clearly. Your eyes would strain and everything would appear clouded. In the same way, when the mind is full of noise, words carry no weight, no presence, no clarity. Speaking from stillness means waiting until the dust inside has settled. It means not allowing emotions to dictate the rhythm of your words, but instead letting your breath and awareness guide you. When you practice this, a man feels it instantly. He notices that your words are not scattered like dry leaves in the wind, but deliberate, calm, and steady like stones placed one by one across a stream. Consider how two people can say the same phrase, yet it lands differently. A rushed, distracted, "I'm listening," is empty. A centered, still, "I'm listening," becomes a doorway. The words may match, but the energy behind them changes everything. A woman who has cultivated the habit of speaking from stillness does not waste her voice in restlessness. Her presence itself becomes the message. There is an old story told among practitioners of meditation. A student asked his master, "How do I find truth?" The master simply closed his eyes and sat in silence. After some time, he opened them and said, "When you are still, truth finds you." Speaking to a man is no different. When you are still, your truth reaches him. He does not need long explanations or dramatic gestures. What he feels in your stillness is more powerful than anything else. You can test this in daily life. Before you answer his question, place one hand on your abdomen and breathe deeply. Notice how your voice softens. Notice how your words slow down. Notice how even your eyes hold more patience. This is the power of speaking from stillness. It communicates that you are present, that you are not fighting the moment, that you are not speaking simply to discharge your emotions, but to build connection. Men often find this deeply grounding because the world already demands so much of them. To return home to a woman who speaks from stillness is like returning to a sanctuary. This is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about aligning what you feel with the space to express it clearly. Think of a tea ceremony. Hot water is poured gently, not splashed recklessly. The care with which the tea is prepared reveals the respect behind it. Your words are no different. Let them pour, not spill. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, when you speak to the man in your life, do your words flow from stillness, or do they rush forward before you have even tasted them? If you begin here, you will find that communication transforms. And when communication transforms, silence itself begins to carry a new weight. Many women fear silence, believing it signals disinterest or distance. Yet silence, when held with discipline, becomes one of the most powerful tools in a relationship. Too often, we fill every gap with chatter, with explanations, with attempts to control the space. But silence, in its purity, allows another person to step into it. It invites the man to reveal his thoughts without being rushed, to feel that you trust him enough not to crowd every moment with your voice. Discipline of the tongue is no less demanding than discipline of the body. In the monastery, young practitioners learn that rushing a movement breaks its balance. In the same way, rushing words diminishes their impact. Silence allows tension to breathe. It allows emotion to soften. And sometimes it allows truth to arise where words would only make confusion thicker. Think of the echo in a mountain valley. The shout is loud, but it fades. The echo continues, reaching places the original sound could not. Your silence can be like this echo. A moment of quiet after a man speaks often lingers in his heart longer than any response. It tells him I heard you. I am reflecting. I am not hurrying to correct or control. In relationships, silence can become a language of trust. When he is uncertain, your silence tells him that you will not force his hand. When he is angry, your silence tells him that you will not pour fuel on the fire. When he is joyful, your silence tells him that you are content simply to witness. Try this in practice when he speaks. Count to 3 in your mind before you reply. This is not a trick to manipulate him, but a discipline to train yourself. You will notice that the conversation slows down. You will notice that he leans in more. You will notice that your words carry more weight because they are fewer, more chosen, more deliberate. A woman once told me of her husband who spoke very little. She often grew anxious in the quiet, rushing to fill it with questions or commentary. But when she began to practice silence, she discovered something surprising. Her husband began to share more, not less. He had always been waiting for the space to open. Her constant filling of silence had unknowingly closed the door. There is wisdom in restraint. Just as an archer waits for the right moment to release the arrow, a woman can wait for the right moment to release her words. Silence is not emptiness. It is readiness. It is space for depth. And when words finally come, let them be chosen with the same care that water chooses its path. Water flows gently around stones, adapting to the terrain, nourishing everything it touches without resistance. It never demands, yet it transforms landscapes. When you speak like water, your words soften hard moments, dissolve barriers, and bring life where there was dryness. Think of an argument. Harsh words are like throwing stones into already turbulent water. They create more waves, more splashing, more noise. But gentle words, chosen with care, are like a calm stream. They move steadily, reshaping the ground over time. A man confronted with harsh words may resist, but confronted with gentle, steady words, he finds himself listening, reflecting, opening. There is a saying, the soft overcomes the hard. Water demonstrates this each day. Rocks crumble, but rivers flow endlessly. In relationships, words that flow like water carry this same hidden power. I once witnessed a woman who wanted to express disappointment to her partner. Instead of accusing him, she said quietly, "When you didn't call, I felt unseen." Her words did not attack. They flowed gently, revealing her truth without cutting. The man listened deeply. Because her words did not close his heart, they opened it. He could step into the stream of her feelings without being drowned by accusation. The practice is simple, but not easy. Before speaking, ask yourself, does this word strike like a stone, or does it flow like water? Stones build walls, but water builds bridges. Stones create division, but water creates connection. When you learn to choose words like water, you discover that you no longer need to push for love flows naturally where respect and gentleness are present. Consider how men carry burdens silently. The world asks them to be strong, unshaken, unbroken. When they return to you, they do not need another stone added to their load. What they need is the flow of water, refreshment, release, gentleness. Your words can be this flow. They can soothe the weight he carries, not by solving his problems, but by creating an atmosphere where he feels safe to breathe. Every woman has the choice in each conversation to speak as fire or as water, to speak as stone or as stream. High value does not come from many words, but from wise words, and wisdom is always gentle. So pause and reflect now in your last conversation. Did your words crash like rocks, or did they flow like water? What seeds did you plant in that moment? What energy did you release into the space between you? Because when you speak from stillness, when you let silence hold its power, and when you choose words like water, you are not simply communicating. You are shaping the very current of the relationship. You are creating an atmosphere where love can breathe. And love, like a river, needs space to flow. When we enter into a conversation, often we carry assumptions without realizing it. We believe we already know what the other person feels, what they think, or what they intend. These assumptions act like clouds before the sun, covering the truth and casting shadows where clarity could exist. In relationships, assumptions are one of the most silent but destructive forces. They create walls without bricks, distances without miles. To ask instead of assume is to open a window where fresh air can enter. It is the decision to replace judgment with curiosity, to replace projection with presence. Imagine a woman who feels hurt because her partner has grown quiet. Without asking, she assumes he must be angry with me. And from that assumption, her tone shifts, her words grow colder, her energy withdraws. The man, who may simply be tired or lost in thought, now feels accused for something he did not even do. This spiral continues, all from a single assumption left unexamined. If she had instead asked gently, "You seem quiet. How are you feeling?" the space would have opened for him to share, and connection would remain. The practice of asking is not about interrogation, but about invitation. It is about showing interest without suspicion, openness without pressure. A man feels respected when he is asked rather than accused. He feels valued when a woman seeks his truth instead of assuming she already knows it. Clarity of mind is not just about logic. It is about having the humility to admit, I do not know what he feels until he tells me. There is a well-known teaching. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. In relationships, this wisdom is especially powerful. When you ask, "What do you think?" or "How did that make you feel?" you are not only gathering information, you are giving him a space where his voice matters. This builds trust, because trust grows where someone feels heard and not judged. Think of it as tending a garden. If you assume the soil is dry without checking, you may overwater and drown the roots. But if you place your hand in the earth and truly feel, you know exactly what is needed. Asking questions is like feeling the soil. It prevents you from acting blindly. It helps you nurture instead of harm. In practice, try to replace one assumption each day with a curious question. If he is late, instead of assuming, "He does not respect my time," you might ask, "Was there something that delayed you?" If he seems distant, instead of assuming, "He is no longer interested in me," you might ask, "Has something on your mind today?" This shift is small, but its effect is great. A man feels seen not only for his actions, but for his inner world, and that makes him draw closer instead of further away. The words we choose carry an energy far beyond their surface. It is not only the content of our message, but the tone and rhythm of it that shapes the way it is received. Many women have been taught that to be heard, they must raise their voice or sharpen their words. But true strength in communication is rarely loud. It is like bamboo, flexible, calm, yet unbreakable. Gentle strength in tone has the power to disarm defenses and invite respect where harshness would only provoke resistance. Consider the difference between shouting in anger and speaking firmly, but calmly. When anger rises in the voice, the other person's heart closes. They prepare to defend, not to listen. But when the voice carries steadiness, it holds authority without aggression. A man naturally responds to this energy. He may not even fully understand why, but he feels drawn to it because it reflects control and grace. Think of bamboo in the wind. It does not resist violently, it bends, yet it never breaks. Its strength is in its ability to remain steady while adapting. In relationships, this quality is invaluable. A woman who speaks with gentle strength communicates not only her words, but her mastery of self. She shows that she can hold her emotions without letting them control her. She shows that she values connection more than the temporary release of shouting or blaming. There is a story of a woman who often quarreled with her husband. Her voice would rise, her words would cut, and every discussion ended in silence and hurt. One day, after reflecting, she decided to change her tone without changing her message. She still expressed her concerns, still spoke her truth, but she lowered her voice, slowed her pace, and spoke as if placing each word carefully on the table. Her husband, who had once resisted, now leaned in. He listened because her tone invited listening. The message was the same, but the delivery transformed the outcome. This is not weakness, it is discipline. Anyone can raise their voice in anger. It takes mastery to speak firmly, softly, and with intention. Men who are often conditioned by a world of noise and demands find great peace in a woman whose tone is calm yet confident. She becomes a place where they can breathe. You can test this in your own life. The next time you feel tempted to raise your voice, pause, breathe, then say what you must say, but with steadiness. Notice how differently it lands. Notice how your words are no longer resisted but received. And yet, tone alone is not enough. To create true connection, you must also learn to listen. Not with your ears alone, but with your whole being. Listening with the whole body is one of the rarest skills, yet one of the most valuable. Too often, people hear only the surface of words. Their mind is busy preparing replies, judgments, or stories of their own. But when you listen with your full presence, eyes, posture, breath, you give a gift greater than any advice, the gift of being fully seen. Imagine a conversation where you sit across from a man, and instead of interrupting or rushing, you lean in slightly, soften your eyes, and place your entire attention on him. You are not thinking of what to cook for dinner or what to say next. You are simply there, receiving. He feels this instantly. He may not put it into words, but his body relaxes, his shoulders lower, his voice deepens. He feels safe. In the temple, when a student speaks to the master, there is no phone, no distraction, no half listening. There is full attention. This full presence communicates more respect than any title or gesture. In relationships, men long for this same kind of attention, though few will ever ask for it directly. When a woman listens with her whole body, she creates harmony. She tells him without words, "You matter. Your thoughts are worth hearing. You do not have to fight for space here." There is a mother who once described how her teenage son rarely opened up to her. She tried questions, lectures, even persuasion, but he stayed closed. One day, she stopped trying and simply sat with him, listening fully whenever he spoke, no matter how small. Over time, he began to open. He said later, "I talk to you now because you really listen, not because you demand it." The same principle applies in romantic relationships. Listening without agenda opens the door to intimacy. To practice this, set aside small rituals. When he speaks, put your phone down, face him fully. Let your breath slow so your body communicates calm. Notice the tension in your face and soften it. These small gestures carry great meaning. They tell him you are not only hearing, you are receiving. And when he feels received, he begins to share more of himself, which deepens the bond between you. When you combine these practices, asking instead of assuming, speaking with gentle strength, and listening with your whole body, you weave a fabric of communication that cannot easily tear. Assumptions dissolve into curiosity. Harshness transforms into steady strength. Superficial hearing grows into deep listening. This fabric becomes the ground on which love can stand, even when storms come. When words leave your mouth, but your heart does not stand behind them, they become hollow, like an empty drum making noise, but carrying no depth. In relationships, this emptiness is quickly felt. A man may hear the compliment, but if it does not align with the truth of your heart, It becomes a performance rather than a gift. Alignment of words with the heart is one of the most profound forms of authenticity. When your words are born from your genuine feeling, they not only enter the ear, but also settle in the soul. There is a difference between saying, "I'm proud of you," because you feel you should, and saying it because your heart truly swells with pride. In the first case, the words might even irritate him because he senses the lack of sincerity. In the second case, your tone, your eyes, and your energy all carry the same message. It is no longer only a sentence. It is an atmosphere he breathes in. Consider a woman who tells her partner, "I trust you," but deep down she does not. Her words and her heart move in opposite directions. What follows? He feels the dissonance. He senses the gap between expression and truth. This gap breeds confusion, then mistrust. But if she works on her own inner alignment, if she can bring her words in harmony with her heart, the phrase, "I trust you," becomes healing. It creates stability in him because he knows it is real. This principle applies not only to compliments or declarations of love, but also to disagreements. If you are upset and you try to cover it with empty reassurance, "It's fine, I'm not bothered." Your words betray your truth, and he can feel it. Men may not always be skilled at articulating emotions, but they often sense energy more than they admit. They can feel when your heart does not match your words, and this is what creates distance. In practice, this requires courage. It is easier to say what sounds right than to reveal what is truly in the heart. But high-value communication is not about comfort. It is about integrity. Before you speak, ask yourself, do I truly feel this? Am I aligned? If not, it is better to remain silent than to release words that carry no soul. Over time, when a man sees that your words are consistently aligned with your heart, his trust in you deepens. He begins to believe not just your sentences, but your presence. There is a phrase often spoken in Eastern teaching. The mouth speaks, but the heart decides the weight of the word. A small phrase, if rooted in truth, carries the weight of mountains. A long speech, if disconnected from the heart, floats away like smoke. When you align your words with your heart, you allow love to take root in truth rather than illusion. Yet, to reach this alignment, the breath must also be your companion. Breath is the bridge between body and mind, and it is also the bridge between emotion and expression. If your breath is fast, shallow, restless, your words will carry the same qualities: rushed, scattered, unsteady. If your breath is slow, deep, grounded, your voice becomes calm, and your words carry more authority, even if they are few. In moments of tension, notice how quickly breath rises to the chest. The voice follows, becoming sharp, brittle, unstable. But when you return the breath to the abdomen, when you let it slow, your tone changes instantly. The man before you feels the shift, even if he cannot explain why. He will feel less attacked, more willing to listen, simply because your breath has calmed the vibration of your words. In martial training, when the breath is rushed, the strike loses its power. When the breath is steady, the strike is unshakable. The same principle lives in your conversations. The power of your word depends not on volume, but on the steadiness of your breath. A whisper spoken with deep breath can carry more influence than a shout carried on shallow breath. Try this as an exercise. The next time you are about to respond in frustration, pause and take one slow inhale, then one slow exhale. Then speak. You will feel how your tone changes, how your choice of words softens, how your message lands with more balance. This is not weakness. It is mastery of energy. Men often test words for their energy before their content. Your calm breath communicates more to him than your carefully chosen sentences. Think of a child who runs to her mother in tears. The mother does not calm the child with logic, but with breath. She slows her own breathing, and the child, sensing it, begins to slow as well. This is the power of breath. It transmits calmness, safety, and steadiness without a single explanation. In the same way, your breath becomes a silent message to your partner. You are safe here. We can speak without chaos. And once the breath has steadied, another wisdom becomes clear: speak less, but mean more. Many believe that the way to resolve conflict or to deepen connection is through endless discussion, through pouring out word after word. But words, when too many, become like grains of sand scattered in the wind. They lose their weight. Words, when few and chosen, are like stones placed carefully in the river. They create a path across. A man does not remember every sentence you say, but he will carry the few words that were rooted in truth. When you flood him with explanations, arguments, or repeated affirmations, his mind becomes numb. But when you speak little and align each word with purpose, it lodges in his memory. The silence around your words makes them echo longer. There is a story of a monk who taught an entire lesson by saying only, "Be present." When his students asked for more, he smiled and remained silent. Years later, they still spoke of that moment because the few words he used sank deeply, supported by the silence that framed them. In relationships, the same principle applies. Instead of telling him 10 times that you love him, say it once with full presence, full breath, full alignment, and it will last far longer. This does not mean withholding communication or playing games of scarcity. It means valuing your words the way you would value precious stones. If you carry diamonds in your hand, you do not scatter them carelessly. You place them carefully. In the same way, when you speak less but mean more, your partner learns to treasure your words. He knows that when you speak, it is not noise, it is essence. Think of an argument where both sides are speaking endlessly, raising voices, repeating points. Nothing changes. Now imagine instead she listens, breathes, and then says one simple sentence: "I want to feel close to you." The argument dissolves because in those few words, the heart was revealed. Few words, much meaning. This is the way of communication that holds weight. It is not the abundance of words that creates closeness, but the essence behind them. Men, who are often less verbal in expressing emotion, resonate deeply with a woman who does not overwhelm them with floods of talk, but instead chooses her words like pearls on a string. Each word deliberate, connected, beautiful in its placement. When you combine these 3 practices, aligning words with heart, slowing the breath, and speaking less but meaning more, you create communication that is no longer surface level. It becomes living energy. Your partner feels not just what you say, but who you are within what you say. He feels not only your sentences, but the silence, the breath, the alignment that carries them. This is where communication stops being ordinary and becomes transformative, a path not only to understanding each other, but to strengthening the unseen thread that binds 2 lives together. There comes a moment in relationships when silence reveals more than words ever could. Not the silence of disinterest, but the kind of quiet that comes when 2 people can sit together, breathe together, and feel no need to fill the air with explanations. This silence is not empty, it is deeply alive. It carries trust, safety, and the assurance that you are in the presence of someone who accepts you without demanding that you perform or prove your worth. When 2 people reach this stage, they are no longer afraid of pauses, because they have learned that love does not always need constant reassurance. Sometimes, love is in the unspoken connection. Many relationships break under the weight of over-explaining. One person constantly justifies their feelings, decisions, or mistakes, not realizing that endless explanations often come from fear of being misunderstood or rejected. Yet true connection doesn't demand a courtroom defense. If you must constantly argue for your value, then your love is not being honored. Consider a woman who feels she must explain why she's tired after working long hours, why she cannot attend every social gathering, or why she needs space to recharge. Her partner listens but still makes her feel guilty, as if her boundaries are inconveniences. Over time, she finds herself drained not because of love itself, but because of the need to continually justify her needs. This kind of dynamic erodes trust. A healthy relationship moves differently. When you say, "I'm exhausted today, I need rest," and your partner responds, "I understand, take your time," you experience a subtle but profound truth. Love without interrogation is love that trusts. It's the kind of bond where explanations become shorter, not because of neglect, but because of understanding. Silence and brevity become enough. This is where intimacy deepens, not in the endlessness of words, but in the quiet recognition of each other's reality. But reaching that stage requires courage. It means teaching yourself not to always defend who you are. Many of us grew up equating love with constant justification, as if the only way to be accepted was to make sure every action was explained, every choice defended. Yet maturity in love is learning that not everyone deserves your explanations, and not every thought in your heart requires translation. The right person will hear you even in your silences. The wrong person will not understand you, no matter how many words you use. It is the same in moments of conflict. Arguments often become endless circles because both sides are determined to explain themselves until they are heard, yet both are too busy defending to actually listen. What if instead one chooses silence, not the silence of withdrawal, but of presence, the silence that says, "I am here, I hear you, and I will not escalate this." Such silence can be disarming, even healing. Words may fight, but silence often embraces. To practice this kind of presence requires strength, because silence is often mistaken for weakness. Yet those who understand its power know that silence is not the absence of response, but the presence of restraint. Think of an older couple who has been together for decades. They no longer argue over trivial matters. They know each other too well to waste energy explaining every little thing. Their silence is full of meaning. A glance replaces a paragraph. A sigh carries the weight of an entire story. When one of them forgets something, there is no need for lengthy defense or excuse. A smile, a gentle touch, and the moment passes. This is the quiet grace of enduring love, the ability to let go of the need for constant justification and instead rest in trust. Yet, not all relationships reach that depth. Some remain stuck in the surface, where words are weapons and silence is interpreted as rejection. This is why discernment matters. You must ask yourself, does this relationship allow me the freedom to be silent, to be imperfect, to be unexplainable at times? Or does it demand constant explanations, constant performances, as if my love must always be proven? Love that demands evidence at every turn is not love. It is control disguised as care. Real love trusts what cannot always be explained. When you begin to live with this awareness, you also stop over-explaining yourself to others outside your relationship. Friends, family, even strangers will sometimes expect reasons for why you chose the path you did, why you said no, why you walked away. But wisdom is knowing that your life does not require everyone's approval, and therefore it does not require everyone's explanation. A decision born from your peace needs no defense. The more secure you become in yourself, the less you feel the urge to justify, and the more you attract those who resonate with your silence. As relationships evolve, there comes another profound realization. It is not the absence of conflict that makes a relationship strong, but the presence of respect during conflict. Every couple faces disagreements, but the difference lies in how those disagreements are navigated. Do they escalate into personal attacks, or are they guided by the underlying respect that remains unshaken? Respect is not about avoiding conflict, but about refusing to degrade each other in the process. Consider two scenarios. In one, a man and woman argue about finances. The discussion quickly turns into accusations. You never think about the future. You're too controlling. You waste money. The words cut deep, not because of the topic, but because of the disrespect embedded in them. In another couple, the same financial issue arises. This time, the conversation is heated, but respectful. Instead of personal attacks, the focus remains on the issue. I feel anxious when we don't save. I feel restricted when I can't spend. Both acknowledge their emotions without reducing the other's character. The disagreement is real, but the respect is intact. And because of that, resolution is possible. Respect is the soil from which love grows. Without it, even passion cannot survive. Many people mistake attraction, desire, or infatuation for love, but none of these can withstand disrespect. Once you feel belittled, unseen, or dismissed repeatedly, love begins to suffocate. Respect, on the other hand, breathes life into the relationship. It says, even when I don't agree with you, I honor who you are. This is why respect is often more important than love itself. For love without respect becomes manipulation, while respect naturally sustains love. To live in respect requires self-respect first. If you do not honor yourself, you cannot insist that another does. You will accept mistreatment disguised as love, and you will silence your own voice out of fear of abandonment. This is why self-awareness and self-love are not selfish acts, but essential ones. When you know your worth, you no longer tolerate words or actions that degrade you. You teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. Respect also shows up in the smallest details. It is in how you listen without interruption, how you acknowledge someone's feelings, even when you don't share them, how you avoid using their vulnerabilities as weapons during an argument. It is in choosing patience when it would be easier to dismiss. Many think respect requires grand gestures, but often it is the daily acts of consideration that matter most. A door held open, a thank you whispered, a consistent, I appreciate you. These things may seem simple, but over time, they build an unshakable foundation. Relationships that embody respect also handle freedom differently. They understand that love cannot be chained. To love someone is not to own them, but to honor their individuality, even as you walk together. Many couples confuse closeness with control, thinking that to love means to monitor, to demand, to restrict. Yet true love respects freedom. It celebrates the other's growth, even when it means walking slightly apart for a time. There is a story of a man who loved his wife so deeply that when she expressed her dream of studying abroad, he encouraged her to go. Many would have clung tighter, fearing distance. He chose respect over possession. Years later, when she returned, their love was stronger because it was not born of fear, but of freedom. When freedom is respected, trust flourishes. When trust flourishes, there is no need for jealousy, no space for suspicion to destroy intimacy. But when respect is absent, insecurity breeds. Love then becomes a battlefield of accusations and control, and neither partner feels safe to fully express themselves. The lesson here is simple. Respect is not optional. It is the very structure that holds love upright. And as respect matures, another dimension of love unfolds, the ability to grow together, not just beside one another. Growth in relationships means that both people are evolving, learning, and transforming, yet still choosing each other through those changes. Stagnation kills many relationships because people expect love to remain as it was at the beginning. They want the same passion, the same routines, the same dynamics. But real love is not static, it adapts. The person you met years ago is not the same person today, and neither are you. To grow together means to accept and embrace this evolution. Growth sometimes requires letting go of old patterns that once felt comfortable but are now limiting. A couple may begin their journey with fiery passion, only to later discover that what they need is stability and partnership. If they cling to the old version of love, they will feel disappointed. But if they allow themselves to grow into the new phase, they will discover a deeper form of intimacy. Growth might mean learning new ways of communicating, taking on new responsibilities, or supporting each other through career shifts, health challenges, or personal dreams. One of the most beautiful sights is watching two people who have chosen to grow together over decades. Their love no longer looks like the fireworks of youth, but like the steady flame of a candle that has burned through storms yet continues to shine. Their conversations may be quieter, their activities simpler, but their connection is profound. Growth has refined their love into something unshakable. But growth also demands risk. It requires that you confront the parts of yourself that resist change. In a relationship, this may mean admitting your mistakes, seeking forgiveness, or learning habits that feel uncomfortable at first. It may mean allowing your partner to outgrow an old version of themselves without resenting the change. Many relationships fail here when one partner evolves and the other clings to the past. The distance grows not because love disappeared, but because growth was resisted. To prevent this, both must commit to personal development. You cannot expect your relationship to grow if you yourself are unwilling to. Read, learn, travel, reflect. Encourage your partner to do the same. Share what you are discovering. This way, your growth becomes a shared journey rather than a private one. When two people grow together, their bond deepens, not because they avoided change, but because they embraced it. Growth also teaches humility. It shows you that love is not about finding someone who never changes, but about finding someone who changes in ways that inspire you to grow too. To love someone is to witness their evolution without fear, to celebrate their becoming even when it challenges your own comfort. This is where love transforms into something beyond romance, into partnership, into spiritual companionship, into a shared journey of becoming. There comes a time in every relationship where one must face the deeper truths about connection, that love is not simply a feeling, but a discipline, a choice, and a responsibility. Key point 13 brings us to the recognition that patience and timing are just as important as passion and desire. Too often, people enter relationships expecting immediate fulfillment, forgetting that intimacy, trust, and harmony are cultivated through seasons. Just like a garden, no matter how fertile the soil, it requires time, watering, and care before fruits are harvested. In love, the greatest mistake is to rush the process, forcing outcomes, demanding answers, or expecting another person to immediately rise to the level of our own vision. When you rush, you miss the beauty of unfolding. Patience becomes a sacred virtue because it allows both partners the freedom to grow at their natural pace. Think of the river. It doesn't carve valleys in one day, nor does it demand that mountains lower themselves to its level. Yet over time, by persistence and patience, the river shapes the land. In the same way, patience in relationships is not passive. It is an active force that holds space for growth, transformation, and healing. Consider a couple struggling with miscommunication. The impatient heart demands resolution instantly, even if it means escalating conflict. The patient heart waits, breathes, and understands that sometimes silence or time apart is what nurtures understanding. It knows that clarity arrives when emotions calm. To be patient is to trust not just your partner, but also the unfolding of life itself. In relationships, timing matters. Meeting the right person at the wrong time often results in heartbreak, while meeting the right person when both hearts are ready creates alignment. Timing is the invisible hand of destiny, and patience is the ability to honor it. There is a profound story of two lovers separated by circumstance, distance, obligations, and external pressures. One was eager to bridge the gap, pressing constantly for reassurances, while the other longed for space to grow. The tension nearly broke them apart until they both learned that true connection requires patience with each other's journeys. They did not need to sprint toward love, they needed to walk in rhythm with one another. This realization saved them. And so it becomes clear. Impatience often comes from fear. Fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being left behind. But love thrives not in fear, but in trust. Patience tells your partner, I believe in you, I believe in us, and I trust the timing of our unfolding. Without this patience, even strong love suffocates. With it, even fragile beginnings can blossom into lasting partnerships. From here, the 14th key point emerges naturally. Communication is not about speaking more, but about listening deeper. Many people assume that the essence of connection lies in how well they express themselves. Yet the truth is that intimacy is built not by how much you speak, but by how attentively you listen. Most people do not truly listen. They wait for their turn to reply. They prepare rebuttals, defense mechanisms, or words of persuasion, even as the other is speaking. In doing so, they fail to hear the heart behind the words. Real listening is an act of love. It says, I value your experience enough to set aside my own ego. In relationships, unresolved conflicts often don't arise from lack of love, but from lack of listening. When one partner says, you don't understand me, they rarely mean you don't know the facts of their life. They mean you haven't sat in their world long enough to feel their reality. Imagine a man coming home from work, exhausted, venting about a difficult day. His partner, instead of simply listening, begins giving advice. You should do this. You should quit. You should stand up to your boss. Though well-meaning, these words do not heal, because what he needed was not solutions but empathy. A simple, I hear you, that must have been so draining, could have eased his heart. Listening is medicine. It makes the other person feel seen. In many cultures, silence during conversation is uncomfortable. People rush to fill the space, thinking dialogue must be constant. Yet silence, when intentional, creates room for depth. A pause after your partner shares something vulnerable signals respect. It tells them you are processing, not dismissing. Listening also requires curiosity. Instead of assuming you know what they mean, ask, can you tell me more? Or, what does that feel like for you? These questions open doors to their inner world. There's a saying, the biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. In love, listening is the bridge between two different worlds. You may never fully live your partner's experiences, but through attentive listening, you can visit their world, walk in it for a while, and return with greater compassion. Sometimes, the greatest healing you can offer someone is your silence and presence without interruption. If patience is the soil of love, listening is the water that nourishes it. Without water, even fertile soil grows barren. Without listening, even great love dries into resentment. When you commit to listening, you create safety, and safety is the foundation upon which vulnerability can flourish. From this foundation flows the 15th key point. Love is not proven in grand gestures, but in consistency. The human heart is dazzled by big displays, roses, vacations, expensive gifts, but the soul longs for reliability. It is not the fireworks once a year that sustain love. It is the steady flame of a candle that does not go out in the winds of daily life. Consistency communicates dependability. I am here, not just in the moments of passion, but in the ordinary rhythms of life. A partner who calls not just when they want something, but regularly to check in, builds trust. A partner who remembers the small details, a favorite tea, a dream whispered in passing, creates security. Consistency is love translated into habit, and habits shape destinies. Think of the parent who shows up daily to care for a child. The child does not remember every toy or outing, but they remember that presence was never absent. In relationships, the same principle applies. A woman once shared how her husband never forgot to kiss her on the forehead before leaving for work, no matter how hurried the morning was. This small act, repeated daily, spoke volumes more than any diamond ring. It was consistency, not extravagance, that convinced her of his devotion. The danger of inconsistency is that it breeds doubt. When someone loves passionately one day and is cold the next, it creates insecurity. You cannot build a stable home on shifting sands. People thrive in environments where they can predict love, where affection is not conditional upon mood, convenience, or circumstances. Consistency also means aligning words with actions. A promise without follow-through is a wound to trust. Saying, "I'll change," or "I'll be there," means little without consistency of action. Over time, inconsistency erodes the foundation of trust, while consistency reinforces it. True love doesn't shout in public to prove itself. It whispers daily in ways that only the beloved can hear. It's the text in the middle of a busy day just to say, "I thought of you." It's the act of doing the dishes after a long day so your partner can rest. It's the rhythm of care that says, "I won't just love you when it's easy, I'll love you in the ordinary." Patience, listening, and consistency form a trinity that sustains relationships. Patience gives time for growth, listening gives depth to understanding, and consistency gives stability to the journey. Together, they weave a fabric strong enough to hold two lives through seasons of change, uncertainty, and trials. Those who practice these virtues discover that love is less about constant excitement and more about enduring presence. They learn that the extraordinary lies not in the rare, but in the faithful repetition of small acts done with great love. And in this way, relationships are not built overnight nor destroyed in a moment, but shaped daily by how we wait, how we hear, and how we remain. There comes a point in every relationship where words are no longer the strongest form of communication. Actions take their place. This is why consistency is often considered the highest form of love. Anyone can say, "I care for you," or "I love you," but it takes a deeper kind of devotion to embody those words in the everyday rhythms of life. Consistency isn't about perfection, it's about reliability. It is the assurance that one's partner will show up in ways that build trust rather than erode it. Relationships grow not in grand moments, but in the small, repeated gestures that compound over time. Checking in after a long day, remembering small details, listening without distractions, or offering support even when it is inconvenient. A woman who has experienced inconsistency in relationships knows the disorienting pain of it. One moment, affection flows, the next, distance takes over. This unpredictability shakes the foundation of security, leaving her questioning her worth, doubting her intuition, and clinging to unstable ground. In contrast, when a partner chooses consistency, it creates a rhythm of peace. It says, "You don't have to guess where you stand with me." This is not about doing the same thing every day, but about aligning actions with words repeatedly enough that love is no longer questioned. It is known, felt, and trusted. There's a story of a man who every morning left a note by his wife's coffee cup before going to work. The notes were not always poetic, sometimes just "good luck with your meeting" or "remember to breathe today." but the steady pattern of these small gestures became her anchor. Years later, when challenges came, it wasn't grand declarations that gave her strength. It was the memory of those daily notes that reassured her she was cherished. Love, in its truest form, lives in repetition. But consistency is not only about the external gestures. It is also about emotional steadiness. If a man offers affection when it's easy, but withdraws when life is heavy, his love is situational. Real intimacy demands showing up not only when things are light and joyful, but also when storms arrive. Life inevitably delivers seasons of chaos, illness, loss, stress, financial struggles. And it is during those moments that the strength of consistency is truly tested. A steady presence says, I will not disappear when the weight of life is heavy. That assurance can heal wounds that words alone could never touch. Consistency is also deeply tied to integrity. To be consistent means one's inner values match outward behavior. When promises are kept and actions reflect stated intentions, trust becomes unshakable. A broken promise, even in small matters, is not about the detail itself, but about the erosion of reliability. Over time, these fractures create doubt. But when reliability becomes habitual, the relationship thrives in security. The mind rests, the heart softens, and love deepens. As important as consistency is, it must walk hand in hand with adaptability. A relationship that is rigid, unable to bend with life's changes, often cracks under pressure. Love is not a static thing. It evolves as people grow, circumstances shift, and new challenges arise. Adaptability is the recognition that two individuals will not remain the same as they were on the first day they met. They will change, and so must their relationship. What once made a woman feel loved at 20 may not be the same at 40. To adapt is to recognize this evolution and adjust with care. Imagine a couple who, early in marriage, thrived on adventure, traveling, exploring, constantly seeking new experiences. Over time, with children, careers, and responsibilities, their rhythms shifted. If one partner clings desperately to the way things, who's to be? Resentment can form. But if both adapt, finding new adventures within their current reality, whether through small weekend rituals or shared projects, the relationship continues to breathe. Adaptability does not mean losing the essence of love. It means reinventing it in ways that keep it alive in changing seasons. The world itself is never still. Careers change, health shifts, families expand or contract, priorities realign. Adaptability is the willingness to grow together rather than apart. It is about saying, I choose to evolve with you, not without you. When one partner refuses to adapt, stagnation sets in. Resentment grows because life's natural flow demands change. A couple who learns to bend with life's winds rather than resist them is far more likely to endure the storms intact. Adaptability also requires humility. To adapt is to admit what worked yesterday may not work today. It is about listening deeply to one another, not with the intent to defend or argue, but to understand. When love becomes flexible, it can stretch without tearing. It can hold space for individuality without sacrificing unity. Relationships that thrive over decades are rarely those that never face challenges, but rather those that learn to pivot gracefully through them. And yet, adaptability without reciprocity becomes imbalance. Reciprocity is the heartbeat of fairness in love. It is the principle that both partners pour into the relationship, not in identical ways, but in ways that reflect genuine effort and mutual care. A one-sided relationship, no matter how strong the initial passion, eventually collapses under the weight of imbalance. Love cannot be sustained when one gives endlessly, while the other takes without replenishment. Reciprocity is not transactional. It is not, I do this only if you do that. Instead, it is a spirit of mutual honoring. It is the understanding that a relationship is built not on one person, carrying the entire weight, but on two individuals choosing to share the responsibility of nurturing it. This can manifest in countless forms: emotional support, acts of service, shared responsibilities, or even the simple gift of undivided attention. Consider a story of two friends who later became life partners. One often expressed love through cooking, preparing meals that reflected care and creativity. The other was not skilled in the kitchen, but reciprocated by ensuring the environment was peaceful, handling tasks that allowed the other's effort to shine. Neither gave in the same way, but both gave in a way that mattered. This balance made their relationship feel whole. Without reciprocity, love begins to feel like obligation. When only one person carries the burden, exhaustion and resentment replace joy. But when reciprocity is present, even the smallest gestures are magnified because they are rooted in mutual effort. A simple "thank you" becomes powerful when it is backed by action. Love thrives not in grand equality, but in meaningful balance. Reciprocity also teaches respect. When someone receives care and does not respond in kind, whether through effort or acknowledgement, it diminishes the dignity of the giver. But when love is met with love, a cycle of nourishment forms. Both partners feel seen, valued, and respected. This cycle is the foundation upon which lasting intimacy is built. The harmony of consistency, adaptability, and reciprocity forms a powerful triad in relationships. Each supports the other. Consistency without adaptability becomes rigid. Adaptability without consistency becomes unstable. Reciprocity without either becomes transactional. But together, they create a rhythm of stability, flexibility, and fairness. A relationship where love is not only declared but demonstrated, not only felt but sustained. Every relationship we encounter in life becomes a mirror, reflecting not only who others are but also who we are becoming. To understand love, respect, and connection is to understand ourselves, because the way we give and the way we receive are both rooted in the depth of our inner growth. Some bonds are placed before us to teach us patience, others to awaken our strength, and still others to remind us of the simple but profound truth that love is not about possession, but about presence. True relationships are not built in the comfort of ease, but in the storms we endure together, in the silences we honor, and in the sacrifices that are made not for recognition, but out of genuine care. When we learn to honor boundaries, to respect differences, to speak with honesty, and to listen with compassion, we rise into a higher form of love. One that does not drain us, but uplifts us. Life will always present challenges, and people will not always meet us with the kindness we expect. But the measure of our worth is never found in how others treat us, rather in how we choose to remain aligned with our values despite it all. In walking this path with clarity and courage, we create relationships that not only survive but flourish. Relationships where love is no longer a fleeting feeling, but a steady force, guiding us closer to who we were always meant to be.